Now, I have something to tell you that is a difficult perception because it's against what we call common sense. But it is important for you to know so that you know yourself, so that you know your life. And that is that everything is happening in the human brain. This very room and all the people in it and all the space that you see around it, around us, everything is happening in the human brain. If you don't have a human brain, it's not happening. Everything happens in the human brain. Now, when you hear gurus talking about life after death, they are talking about a life after death in the human brain. So there is a place of life after death in the human brain. But the only truth is nothing. Nothing is beyond life after death. Are you with me? Nothing is beyond life after death. So here we have life, living as we are. Then we have life after death. And then we have life beyond death. And that's nothing. So when gurus talk about being nothing, they are talking about two stages in. First, you've got to live and have a human brain to even have it said to you, to even be here. Because if you didn't have a human brain, you certainly wouldn't be here, would you? Then you've got to die, the human brain has got to die, because the human brain dies. That's the only thing that dies. And when the human brain's dead, there's nothing except that when people have contact with their relatives, which despite science does happen, that the energy of a relative or someone that they loved returns to them in the sense that they sense around them or inside of them the presence of the person that has died. They still have a human brain, don't you? The person registering the presence of the one who is dead has a human brain. So there's no life after death unless you've got a human brain. Are you getting me? You've got to get it right. Which side are you on? You've got to be on this side because you've got the human brain. Nobody without a human brain has ever spoken. Now, if somebody speaks who's supposed to, without a human brain, you'll get a channeler, won't you? But the thing is that the channeling person has a human brain. So again, you're trapped in the human brain. The whole point about this is for you to realize that you are living as a human brain. That's what you are. You're living in a human brain. The human brain is controlling your life. It's all happening in the human brain. Even out here is still in the human brain. So the question would be, well, what are you gurus talking about then? When you're talking about God, well, I can only speak for this guru. When I speak of God, what am I speaking about? I'm speaking about the intelligence of the human brain. God, in the first and last instance, as far as we are concerned, is the intelligence of the human brain. That's what I'm talking about. And that's God. And the intelligence of the human brain is so present that it's nothing. Because when something is so present, take space. Take space, so let's be practical, take space. It's so present. It's between the cords of the microphone. It's between the flowers. It's between you and me, the speaker. It's so present. What is it? Nothing. You're right. Anything that's as present as space is nothing. And that's what the intelligence of the human brain is, and that's what God is in the first instance. Absolutely nothing, because you can't separate it from anything, because everything's got space in it. That's why it's nothing. Nothing to distinguish. And yet it's so obvious, isn't it? And the intelligence of the human brain is so obvious, isn't it? You're listening with the intelligence of the human brain. I'm speaking with the intelligence of the human brain. Any thought that you have will be an aspect of the intelligence of the human brain. Any perception to see with your eyes, you see with the intelligence of the human brain. So you see, that's the intelligence, that's God. So if there's no God other than the human brain, and that's pretty universal in the way I have described it, what are you, Guru, talking about? What are you doing then? Why do you speak to all the people? Why do you encourage them to go deeper and deeper and deeper? What are you doing? Well, this is the truth of the matter. It is better to live in the human brain, free of anxiety, free of anxious caring, free of unhappiness, than to live in the human brain with anxious caring, anxiety, and unhappiness, isn't it? Isn't it? So all Guru does is endeavour to show you how to live in the human brain free of unhappiness, which is better than living with unhappiness, isn't it? So why don't we be practical? Why don't we see that? Is it better to live unhappily, or is it better to live free of unhappiness? So why don't we be absolutely practical? That's what it's about. Let us forget about this business of trying to find consciousness, trying to find awareness. My goodness, I was reading a dissertation an essay by a lady guru the other day that somebody sent me, going on about the difference between consciousness and Darfree John and what he was saying and she was saying. Now, there's no doubt that the lady has realised the truth of nothing. But the page after page of going on about what consciousness is, about what awareness is, about what Christ consciousness is, about what God consciousness is, God realisation, Christ realisation, and all this rubbish. So intellectual, so up here. I mean, what would Kimber? Did I see Kimber here today? Hello, Kimber. How old are you now, Kimber? 6, right, good, yes. That's a pretty good audience, isn't it, when you can attract the 6 years old? Good. How could I talk to Kimber about consciousness and awareness? Right, how could I talk to him about that? But if I talked to him and had him here where I could hold his attention and say, now we're all in the human brain, and everything's got a human brain because you know that. You've seen photographs and heard about it in other people, but you've never seen your own, have you? And he'd be intelligent enough at 6 to say, no, I've never seen my own human brain. I say, good, now that's good practical stuff. Now we're on the right ground, aren't we? You see, as long as you can keep the kids right down there on the earth, on where it means something in practical sense, you're not going to get intellectualism like I just read in this guru's statement of this lady, who means well. So if I say to Kimber, now Kimber, you can hear, can't you? He says, yes. I said, if you didn't have a human brain, Kimber, you wouldn't be able to hear. Do you know that? Because the doctors have shown you've only got to cut a piece of the brain away that controls hearing, and you can't hear. And you can see, can't you, Kimber? Yes. Well, you've got a human brain to see. So all that you see is the product of the human brain. Now, he's only 6, but he wouldn't take long for him to understand that, you know. Because why? Because I'm right down to earth where his experience is. But if I say to him, now about consciousness and about awareness and about God realization, what's he going to say to me, this poor little boy? He's going to quickly look out of the corner of his eye for something to play with, isn't he? And you can't blame him, because something to play with is closer to the earth than all these expressions of intellectuality. Now, you must be very careful, man and woman, of intellectual teachings. It is rubbish. All intellectual teaching is rubbish. All theory is rubbish. All theory. If you're going to find God, which means to find truth, which means to find freedom, you must start down here in the practicality of life. As soon as you get into your intellect, you get into theorists, you're lost and you will become confused. Now, still talking the human brain. Is it better to live free of unhappiness in the human brain than to be unhappy? Well, that's a good practical question, isn't it? The answer is so self-evident. Well, that's what I endeavour to teach. How for you to be free of the anxious caring, the anxiety, the fears, the doubts, in other words, the emotions, the churn in your stomach, and then actuate your mind in your head. The churning in the stomach being the seat of it. The doubts and the fears. Now, as I was saying to Kimber then, you see with your eyes. Your eyes are an extension of the human brain. So you actually see with your human brain. Take away that part of your brain and you don't see anymore. Same with your hearing. You're hearing with the human brain. And so with all your senses. So everything that you see and hear, this whole external existence, is dependent on the human brain. So it's not very far, not much of a jump, to see that the whole of it is being produced by the human brain. In other words, there is nothing out here. Nothing. It is all a projection on a thing called space. Now, space is the movie screen of the human brain. Space is still in the human brain, but it projects its projections onto the thing called space. And we can look into space and see nothing, but all we're looking into is just the space in the human brain on which it puts its projection of the trees, of the mountains, of the cars and the people. This is all happening in your brain, ladies and gentlemen. Every moment of